When you mentioned about 3 days of darkness, and I've heard this from others also,
Mhm.
some say that it is going to be collective, some say that it is going to be individual, depending on the timeline that you are in. So, I'll give you an example. When my son was physically here in 2020, we literally had 3 days of darkness, as in we didn't have electricity for 3 days. And at that time, it was hard COVID lockdown. So we couldn't get out also without proper permissions and all that. And I remember I didn't have candles and I had to take him in. It was raining. There was nobody on the road. And we had gone out to get the candles because my inverter also died down after 1.5 days or something. So is that the 3 days of darkness? Like, is this individual timeline or is it collective?
Collective. It's collective. And also, angels, is it possible that individual souls can have their own 3 days? Absolutely. I hope this is not a non-answer, but they said it can be both, that individuals on their own path can experience a 3 days of darkness as a passageway or a spiritual portal. What we're talking about here is there will be a 3 days of darkness because the grid is collapsing. Because the false matrix is what we created as a collective consciousness that contains all of our electronics, our belief systems, all of the 3D grid to keep this earth running. It's also the grid that got corrupted by the world order that is abusing us, keeping us trapped. So that's what's going to collapse, and it'll cause the 3 days of darkness because we'll be without electricity, the systems will be falling, stock markets, all of that's going to fall. And the why behind that is so it will come back on broken so it can be rebuilt. After that, we'll see things like people will not want to go back to their positions, and the many positions won't exist anymore. So people should be ready to think big. This is the time. What do you want to do? And it's going to feel like we're in survival mode for a while, but it's the great equalizer because we're all going to be in that position. And the truth is, we're not stuck anymore. This is we all chose to be here. We look at our highest selves. We all chose to be here at this moment. And if you look at it from that perspective, everybody and everything involved in this right now is created by Source. If we zoom out, there's no way anybody could ever control us. And we've known those reptilians as friends, as colleagues, as enemies, from all perspectives at some point, because we're all created by Source. So if we really go back to the very beginning of the story, we probably all worked this out together, and that gives us power.
When you mentioned about 3 days of darkness being individual, also, does that mean that what we experienced in 2020 was kind of an initiation? Because my son, he could see future timelines even in 2020 when he used to meditate physically when he was here. He used to do a lot of things. He
Yeah.
loved science, physics, and spirituality, uh, fitness. So he had interest in a lot of areas. So he was an avid reader as well as meditator.
There was a lot going on during COVID. The matrix was brittle. It was starting to pull apart. And some of that was intentional by the world order. They were pulling the structure apart to try to weaken us. And the way they did that was by making us sick and keeping us separate.
Yeah.
And they were doing that because there were some disagreements in the the treaty system, and they were working that out. And also they were preparing a great exodus, a population shift. It was a population shift. And it was targeted, it was manufactured, and there was not much real information coming out at that time. And make me brave, Gabriel. It was a planned genocide. And they put us into separation and darkness so that we wouldn't come together and rebel. They made us scared. They abused us through making us scared for our lives, for our loved ones' lives, and that's how they did it. So they also worked within our financial system to keep us from our jobs. They also hurt our brains through long COVID, things like that. And they softened the strength of a generation by keeping them from school. But what they didn't expect was we all realized that the school system was outdated. We kind of knew it because we've all been through it. And we're talking about worldwide, that school systems were doing their best, but they didn't match how our brains have changed. So that's a win. We also realized that many of us who were working during the day, those jobs were, instead of careers or vocations, many of them were just jobs. And so people woke up to that, realized that they could work a different way. And the money system started to change as well because people were realizing they weren't valued and they wanted money to change. So again, even though that was so rough on us, we grew from it. The same thing will happen now with this great awakening. The expectation on their end is that it's going to wipe us out. No. So think about the COVID journey as our dress rehearsal. And we did well. We did very well. And even the people that crossed over, what I hear from them is that they grew too, and they will help us with this passageway from the other side. Even those who have chosen to reincarnate, we are multidimensional beings. So the fractal of them that's connected to this is still guiding us.
True. My son, he had told me after he crossed over that, Mom, even if I take birth again, my higher self will always stay connected with you.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yeah. Wow. When you talked about these reptilian beings keeping us in the matrix, are all reptilian beings bad, or there are some good ones who are helping us also, right?
Yes, it's a big population, and I don't see the reptilians as